Hi everyone, Renee here. So this video is going to be all about my favorite post-acne treatments, specifically the formulas that I rely on to efficiently and effectively fade those intense red marks that are left behind the erythema, but at the same time, these formulas also help to really calm the skin and prevent new acne from forming. So a few years ago, I did a video, which I will link in my description box, which talked about the differences between post-inflammatory erythema, which are the red marks, and post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, which are the brown marks that come from an overproduction of melanin. They are different and require different treatment, although a lot of formulas out there that claim to treat hyperpigmentation don't necessarily make that distinction. There tends to be overlap where over-the-counter topical treatments are concerned, because whatever you use to treat red marks will help prevent brown marks from forming. Whenever there's an area of inflammation or trauma, our skin will send more melanin to that area in order to protect it. And you are especially susceptible to this if you have skin of color. So if you are of a phototype 3 or greater on the Fitzpatrick scale, then your red and flame marks are more likely to turn into a darker pigment than the rest of your skin tone. So I mentioned in my acne breakout treatment video that I do pretty much put a hold on a lot of the different actives that I'm using, other than the ones that are directly focused on just clearing the breakout or stopping the cycle. After that cycle ends and my skin is clear of like active volcanoes, that's when I will go back to focusing on refining the texture, smoothing the texture, and also just fading the acne scars. And that's when I start focusing on the following treatments. So tranexamic acid, which was mentioned in that last video, is one of my favorites at treating pigmentation in general. It actually works really well for both P.I.E. and P.I.H. But I particularly love it for erythema. It does a really good and powerful job at fading the red marks because it's so good at just calming inflammation. It works really well on the vascular level, which is why it's so great at treating redness, but also melasma. This has been actually a very effective treatment that dermatologists use alongside other treatments to treat melasma, because areas of melasma tend to also be more vascular. Only 3% of it is required in a formula for notable results. Probably one of my favorite and most effective treatments is this one from Hada Labo, their Shirojyun Premium Lotion. You guys know that I am the biggest fan of Hada Labo's Shirojyun Premium Lotion. This is really up there for me. In fact, it's my second favorite out of all the different lotions that Hada Labo has. But this is as hydrating to me as the Shirojyun Premium. This has tranexamic acid. It also contains a vitamin C derivative, magnesium isorborophosphate, and vitamin E. MAP is one of the C derivatives that is particularly effective at evening the skin tone. And consistent to Hada Labo's lotions, this has a bunch of different weights of hyaluronic acid just to make sure that our skin is plumped out on all levels. This isn't about lightening your skin. It's about getting rid of excess pigment and making sure that more doesn't form. And when it comes to those kind of formulas, I tend to really trust in the Japanese ones. This is not a new concern in Asian skincare. This is something that's been addressed in formulas for decades now. Whereas in the West, I would say this is relatively new. In fact, tranexamic acid, vitamin C derivatives, they were all developed by Japanese labs. Just so you know, it is a little confusing with the Shirojyun because some of them will contain tranexamic acid, whereas there are other formulas that don't have tranexamic acid, but they use arbutin instead. I would say that if you go with ones that are marketed in the US and maybe in Europe, you'll probably get the arbutin. I prefer the tranexamic acid one. Serum-wise, a pricier option, but I stand by it. It really works. And I've spoken about this before. It's the Skinceuticals Discolouration Defense. I recommended this to a friend of mine who gets acne all over her cheeks. So once that cycle breaks, she's left with all these bright red marks right over here. And she started using it. And after a month, she already saw such a big difference. You guys know these marks take such a long time to fade, but this definitely speeds that process up by a lot. And you know, when it comes to red marks, they tend to fade much faster than dark marks do. Red marks are more superficial, not as deep-seated as brown pigmentation marks. So those always take a lot more patience, a lot longer, but also it requires a multifaceted approach. This is a strong formula with 3% tranexamic acid, 1% kojic acid, which is, again, a good melanin inhibitor, but it has 5% niacinamide, which is always fabulous for just calming down inflammation, for redness, evening the skin tone. This formula, actually this one too, works really well when you use it in combination with L-ascorbic acid. So I would use my L-ascorbic acid serum first and then this after. I'm going to quickly mention this one from the Inky list because I know I'm going to get questions about it because tranexamic acid is in the actual name of the formula. But this one actually didn't really do anything for me. This uses 2% tranexamic acid, which I think is on the weaker side. I didn't find this anywhere comparable to the other two formulas, but I'm not a beginner either because just even in my Curology tretinoin compound, I have 3% tranexamic acid. Azelaic acid is such a powerful post-acne treatment because it's usually prescribed by dermatologists to treat rosacea. So it is fabulous at just treating redness, treating sensitivity, treating inflammation, bringing all that down. This is also really effective at brightening the skin tone, evening it out, especially if you are prone to redness. But also it's great at skin texture as well. It really works on any kind of a bumpy skin texture. In fact, for those of you who have a hard time tolerating L-ascorbic acid, this is a good alternative, especially if you're using L-ascorbic acid for brightening purposes. So I have two favorites. Let's first talk about Dr. Sam's Brightly Serum. This is a strong, concentrated serum. It is skincare that is very, very hard working. So I do want to mention though that when you are starting out with azelaic acid, especially with concentrations where, it's like 10%, you do want to make sure that you take a phase-in approach. So treat it the same way you would treat when you're starting to use a retinoid. For the first week, maybe just use it twice, see how your skin feels, and then just gradually build up till you're using it as often as you feel you need to. This is also antibacterial, which makes it additionally a good treatment to use over areas that you consistently break out in, not just to fade the red marks, but also to prevent new pimples from forming. This also has 2% ascorbyl glucoside, which is a vitamin C derivative, as well as 1% bakuchiol. So this is all in all just a fabulous all-in-one kind of daytime treatment. This is something that I use in my morning routine. Again, if you are starting out, then I would not necessarily pair this with an L-ascorbic acid serum. I would skip it until you feel that your skin has adjusted and will not be overly loaded down or sensitized. But ascorbic acid with this is a powerful combination. It will just level up the glow. I would use this after any hydrating treatment. This has a silky, creamy texture. So, for some of you who have oilier skin types, this may be all you need. You may not need an additional moisturizer over this. You just use this and then use your sunscreen and you're good. My other favorite that I've been using for the longest period of time is from Paula's Choice 10% Azelaic Acid Booster. So what's really notable about both these two formulas is how texturally elegant both of them are. Azelaic acid is an ingredient that is really hard to work with to get a good texture. So you will have azelaic acid formulas that are just really kind of grainy. It's just not nice. You would never be able to tell with these two because they're really, really elegant serums. This formula is more lightweight in texture. In fact, it sinks into the skin really quickly, and it's more of a layerable serum. But this is another very powerful combination. This pairs azelaic acid with salicylic acid. Together, they work so effectively, not just at calming inflammation down, but also at just keeping the pores super clear and clean. And this is a really effective preventative treatment at just keeping acne at bay and away. This also contains other effective anti-inflammatory and calming ingredients such as licorice root extract, allantoin, bisabolol. But yeah, no, this is a fantastic treatment if you tend to have oilier skin or if you're more congestion prone. Again, I would use this in my morning routine after any hydrating treatments. If you get to a point where you want to incorporate other actives, I would use this after vitamin C or niacinamide, and then moisturizer and sunscreen afterwards. So not to be too redundant, I want to quickly mention vitamin C, L-ascorbic acid, something that I would usually halt during breakouts. I just don't want to exacerbate or further irritate any wounded area on my skin or any area that's experienced a little bit of trauma. I also wouldn't recommend introducing L-ascorbic acid, vitamin C, into your routine during a breakout because there is potential that it could exacerbate it. But the minute the cycle is broken, the minute my breakouts are done, that's, it's one of the first things I will bring back into my routine. I love my L-ascorbic acid serums. It's just so effective for making sure your skin heals properly, but also it just really does a great job brightening the skin as well and just fading those red marks as well. If you are going to use a derivative of vitamin C, then I highly recommend magnesium ascorbyl phosphate or THD, tetrahexyldexol. Those are always the ones that I found to be particularly effective at evening out the skin tone, lightening excess pigmentation. I will link the videos with all my vitamin C picks down below. Exfoliation definitely helps. In fact, a lot of times when you're using something pretty strong like the Ordinary's Carry at the Prom 30% AHA mask, you could almost tell the results really quickly, like it's almost immediate or overnight even. But if you're using formulas that strong, you can also potentially run the risk of making redness even worse. If there are certain acid formulas, whether it's toners, serums, or masks that you use, where afterwards your skin is red, for me that would be Biologique Recherche's P50, even though I feel like to this day it's probably one of the most effective, impactful acid formulas out there. For me, if I use it too often and I use it too much, then I definitely get a lot of redness on my skin. So for those of you who do tend to turn red or get patches of red when you're using an acid formula, there are a whole slew of new options now that are sort of low concentration, really gentle, but seriously effective. One of my favorite new acid toners, this really is so good, is from Josh Rosebrook, his Daily Acid Brightening Facial Toner. This is a very, very hydrating formula. It's not heavy, but you really get the sense that the hydration stays in your skin for a very long time. It is very gently exfoliating, but it is exfoliating. So my skin feels really smooth and refined in texture when I use this. It's also just really luxurious. It smells like hibiscus tea. It really feels like you're putting hibiscus tea on your skin, and hibiscus really is like nature's retinoid. I'm actually quite surprised. I thought this would be a lot more expensive than it is. Another one to seriously consider is this one from Geek and Gorgeous. Their Calm Down 4% PHA plus BHA liquid. So this has 3.2% PHA and 0.8% salicylic acid. So PHA is a very gentle AHA exfoliant. It has larger molecules, so it just does not irritate your skin as much. This works really well on the surface of the skin. This just exfoliates gently, consistently, but at the same time, it's kind of calming. So that's one thing that all these options have in common, is that they have the ability to calm the skin down as well and dull down the redness as well as exfoliate. I also want to quickly mention, you guys are probably really sick of me talking about this by now, but Paula's Choice 2% BHA exfoliating liquid. It is a very gentle exfoliant. Again, extremely hydrating. But also, when they were doing their own tests and their own studies on this product, they actually found this to be more effective at evening out the skin tone and fading redness than an AHA formula. That kind of makes sense because salicylic acid is known for its analgesic properties. Obviously, if you're using retinoids, keep going with that. Keep up with the adapalene, the tretinoin, or whatever it is that you are using. But also, sunscreen. This should really go without saying, so I'm just gonna make this really quick. Sunscreen, you have to wear sunscreen. That is so key. If you don't want more pigmentation, then you gotta make sure you are wearing your sunscreen. One of the most difficult things to do is actually cover up these red marks. Your regular concealer can, cover up a multitude of late nights or whatnot, but for some reason, these intense post-acne marks are just so difficult. You can have 5, I've tried having maybe 5 layers and it still doesn't do the trick. However, I have found my solution to this little miracle from Physicians Formula, their Conceal RX Physician Strength Concealer in Soft Green. This manages to cover up in one application more than multiple layers of concealer. The consistency of this is substantial enough that it really holds on to the area that you're trying to apply it, and it does not rub off even as you are trying to blend it out. And this is blendable. This doesn't just neutralize the red, it completely knocks it out. So when I'm applying my regular complexion makeup over it, you just don't see anything peeking through at all. This is oil-free, it will not clog up the pores, and most importantly, it does not rub off. It stays put. It stays in place, and if you apply this early in the morning, late at night, you'll find that it does not budge. It just does not just fade. So if you have areas or spots where just normal makeup will not cut it, this will do the heavy lifting. So that's it, everyone. These are my favorite treatments for post-acne scarring that's not going to help fade the redness quickly, but also prevent new pimples from forming. Of course, what you end up choosing and how you use it really depends on what your own individual needs are, not just skincare needs, but also what may fit best in your current routine that's really working for you. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I'm wishing you great skin health. Bye.